If you've been keeping an eye on the markets at all, you know something wild has been happening with silver. I mean, its price has absolutely taken off, and everybody is talking about it. So let's spend the next few minutes breaking down what's happening and, more importantly, why. Okay, let's get right into it.
First things first, that big headline number. Silver didn't just inch up, it blew past a massive milestone, crossing $75 an ounce for the very first time. This isn't just another price bump. This is a genuinely historic moment.
And the speed of this thing is just wow. In a single week, silver prices shot up by over 11%. Now, that kind of move in a major commodity, that's what makes everyone stop and ask, okay, what is going on here?
Now take a look at this chart, because this is where the story gets really crazy. A 39% gain in 1 month. That's huge. But zoom out a little. A 99% gain in 6 months, and an unbelievable 138% gain over the last year. I mean, this isn't a rally, it's a full-on explosion. So, that's the big question, right? Why is this happening now? Well, it's not just one single thing. It's more like a perfect storm, a powerful combination of factors all coming together at the exact same time. So let's break down these main drivers. To really get our heads around this surge, we need to look at 4 key drivers. These are the big forces that are pushing the price of silver into the stratosphere. And here they are. First, we've got hopes of interest rate cuts. Second, very real supply shortages. Third, a huge boom in industrial demand. And fourth, growing geopolitical risk. So let's dig into each of these one by one. Okay, first up, rate cuts. Here's the deal. When interest rates are high, you can just park your money in a savings account and, well, it earns you more money. Simple, right? But what happens when the market starts to think rates are about to drop? Suddenly, assets that don't pay you any interest, what we call non-yielding assets like silver, start to look a whole lot more attractive. And right now, the market is betting big that the U.S. Federal Reserve is going to cut rates, which is pushing a lot of investors towards silver. The second driver is just classic economics, supply and demand. Right now, there are major supply deficits happening in key silver markets around the world. It basically means there just isn't enough physical silver to easily go around and meet all the demand. And when that happens, you guessed it, the price goes up.
All right, on to our third driver, and honestly, this one is so critical to the whole story that it really needs its own section. We're talking about silver's role as an industrial powerhouse.
You see, this is what makes silver so different from, say, gold. When you think of gold, you probably think of jewelry or maybe big bars in a bank vault. But with silver, over half of all demand for it comes from its use in manufacturing. It's not just a pretty metal, it's a workhorse that our modern world literally cannot function without. And I mean, just think about it. The electronics in the phone in your pocket, that has silver. The solar panels that are powering the green energy revolution, packed with silver. Even things like specialized medical coatings rely on it. It is everywhere. And this industrial demand isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's growing, which creates this constant pull on the available supply.
This industrial role is so important that the U.S. government has now officially designated silver as a critical mineral. That's a huge deal. It basically underscores its strategic value and means that having a steady supply of silver isn't just a market concern anymore. It's now a matter of national policy.
So we've covered the fundamental drivers like industrial demand, but we all know markets are also driven by human emotion and sentiment, right? So let's look at that in our third section here, focusing on volatility and how investors are reacting to what's happening in the world. And this brings us right to our fourth key driver, geopolitical risk. When things get shaky out in the world, like recent tensions involving Venezuela, investors get nervous. And what do nervous investors do? They often run for cover. They look for what they see as safe haven assets to protect their money, and silver is right at the top of that list. And this is where that volatility we mentioned really comes into play. Because silver doesn't behave like gold. If gold is the steady, predictable cousin, silver is the volatile powerhouse. In market speak, it has a higher beta, which is just a fancy way of saying its price movements are often way faster and much more dramatic, both on the way up, like we're seeing now, and sometimes on the way down. And keeping that volatility in mind is so important. I love this quote from market analyst Justin Koo. He's pointing out that after a crazy run-up like this, we should probably expect to see some price dips or pullbacks. But, and this is the crucial part, his point is that these should be seen as just temporary corrections within a much bigger upward trend, not a sign that the whole rally is falling apart.
All right, for our final section, let's zoom out a bit. Because silver's incredible story, well, it isn't happening in a vacuum. It's actually part of a much, much wider movement.
And it is so important to understand this point. This isn't just about silver going crazy on its own. What we're actually seeing is a broad rally across the entire precious metals complex. Gold, platinum, palladium, they're all seeing major gains, which tells you there's a much larger trend at play here. I mean, just look at these numbers for a second. Platinum is up over 7%. Palladium has climbed more than 8%. When you see this kind of coordinated movement, with the whole group moving up together, it signals a massive flow of money into this entire sector.
And to put all of this into perspective, to really understand the scale of what's happening, silver is currently on track for its best year since, get this, 1979. We are literally witnessing a truly historic market event unfold before our very eyes. Which really leaves us with this final, critical question. You've got two incredibly powerful forces pulling on a limited supply of silver. On one side, you have industry that is desperate for it to build our future, and on the other, you have investors desperate for a safe haven for their wealth. As these two forces compete, is silver becoming the single most essential metal of the 21st century? That's a question worth watching. Thanks for joining me.